Okay, I'm jumping a slide. I'm going to go back to the previous one, but I want you to look at this guy right here. What is that? That's a big terrarium, right? And if you look carefully, you can see there's a bunch of plants in it. And this is representing, this is an interesting fact. This guy, and look at this guy. He doesn't have any hair. His hair is gray. Back in, I don't remember the details. I think it was 75, as in 1975. He put some dirt and some plants and a little bit of water in that bottle right there, and he sealed it up. About 7 years later, he realized that the seal on his cork wasn't good, so he added a little more water. He was losing water. He added some more water, and he put some grease around the cork, put the lid on it. 40 years later, look, there are living plants in there. And so he has created this little microcosm of life, and it's just gone on and on. So what was really lucky for him is he put soil in there. Now, why is that important? When we were just talking in the previous video, I'd pointed out there was a dead lynx there. And I'd said what was necessary was that we needed bacteria and fungi, stuff in the soil, to break down the dead, the decomposers. The decomposers are an important part of ecology. Well, luckily, he got some of those decomposers in his bottle with him, and he's got this little system there. Now, what we're going to talk about, I'm going back to the previous slide, and my printer is messed up, so the slides might not be very readable on your part, but we're going to look at systems can be described in terms of their characteristics. So this one right here, and you can see we have something called an open system that receives inputs from their surroundings and produces outputs that leave their surroundings. That's open. And then the next point on there is a closed system. And what is a closed system? A closed system exchanges no energy or matter with its surroundings. Okay. What about the biosphere? And what about that bottle? What are they? Open or closed? Let's read the definition again. Open receives inputs from their surroundings and produces outputs that leave the system. In contrast, closed systems exchange no energy or matter with their surroundings. So, in the case of that bottle, and in the case of the biosphere, we depend on sun. So, we are open systems. That bottle is an open system. Why is it open? Because it would die. If you put it in a closet, it would die, right? Everyone knows that. Plants need sunlight. So we have open systems and closed systems, but pretty much everything's an open system, right? Because in terms of our world, it's always going to be an open system. What exists without inputs from somewhere? Nothing. So it's an open system, and we have what we call throughput. Throughput is the term we use to describe the energy and matter that flow into, through, and out of a system. Now, when we talk about the biosphere, we talk about having sunlight energy come. It results in production of high energy molecules that are broken down through metabolism, and there is we produce CO2, and we have waste heat. Don't ever turn your car off and go put your hand on the muffler. Even though you were burning energy there and you were using it to propel your car down the road, you have waste heat, and there's always waste in all of these interactions that we're talking about. And so we lose heat to the atmosphere. We lose astronauts. No, hope not. But we do have stuff that comes from Earth and leaves, even matter-wise. We've sent a few little satellites and things out there to the Netherlands, beyond, to the stars and beyond. You know, and there is small molecules, hydrogen, helium. Some of that little stuff gets lost when it goes up into space. This is a little bit off topic, but it just popped into my head. So what the heck? I'm going to say it anyway. I've been in one of my other classes. We've been talking about topical stuff in the news, and I was talking about the Space Force and how we've kind of gotten ahead of ourselves. We know from the International Space Station, which has microgravity, it's circling the Earth a couple hundred miles up above us, but there's very little gravity there, and we know that. And so I was talking with my other class, I was talking about how after a year in space, people can't even stand up. There's all kinds of effects to their eyes and, things that you wouldn't really anticipate. Their heart becomes smaller because it's not pumping so hard. So there's a lot of hurdles to overcome. That isn't why I brought it up. Why I brought it up is whenever you have a spaceship docks with the International Space Station. Now, the space is a vacuum. There isn't much stuff there, but there's a little bit of stuff there. And so whenever gases, not a lot, but there's some. So whenever you dock a new spacecraft to the International Space Station, you get a little of that stuff from out there. And you know what they say? Space has a smell. Mm-hmm. You know what it smells like? Burned steak. They say it has like a burned steak smell to it. And so you got that burned steak smell stuff that's leaving the Earth as part of this example that we're talking about. Okay. All right, so anyway, so I'm going to switch gears here, and we're going to jump past our guy with the bottle to positive and negative feedback. So we have negative feedback is maybe the easier thing to understand, and when we talk about an air conditioning system, it uses negative feedback, right? So what it does is it monitors temperature, and when the temperature starts going up, it says, well, we better turn that cooler on, and it starts bringing it down, and then it gets cold, and the thermostat says, whoop, shut the cooler off, we're getting too cold. Well, so bringing things back to a set point, either when it strays above or below, is negative feedback. Now, what about when we talk about plant growth? And so you've got early in the year, there's no leaves on the tree, and you've got all these plants, these ferns and things on the bottom of the forest. And they start growing like crazy, and they get, 6-8 inches tall, and then they slow down. Why did they slow down? It's because the trees above them produced leaves, right? And started shading them, so that slowed them down. So that's an example of negative feedback. Now, positive feedback is where when things start changing, they continue changing. So you can think of photosynthesis starting, plants growing, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So in our example, it's a little bit different. I'm going to talk about it again using the example that you probably can't read on this poorly printed printout. But positive feedback is where sunlight hitting the plant produces a growth in the plant. The plant gets bigger and bigger and bigger, but it doesn't go on forever, right? Because we have animals that are feeding on that plant. And so they are producing the negative feedback. So we have positive feedback and we have negative feedback. What's interesting is there's this sort of system approach to growing plants. I'd said plants need certain nutrients, and water plants especially need phosphorus. They need all of it. They need nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. But what tends to be limiting in a water plant is phosphorus. So what did we say? We had said, well, that humans were polluting our world, right? And so we had said that, or animals, it could be farm animals. And so there's this whole new approach to producing vegetables that uses a water system where you have food fish that you are growing, and you put food in and you feed the fish and the fish starts growing, and then you say you have to circulate the water. If you ever have an aquarium, you know you have to change the water because it gets too polluted. Well, plants, what they do is they use that water to fertilize the plants. That's hydroponics. And so there is a video down there about some guy in Oakland, California, Oakland, big city, who's on a loading dock and he's producing vegetables using hydroponics. Okay, we'll stop right there.